Hello everyone and welcome to This Week is Stupid on the 2nd of September 2021. You may notice that there is something wrong with the date, but that is due to the fact that I'm making this episode on a Thursday. You see, last week I got married, and even though I was vehemently opposed in going on a honeymoon, she wanted to go on a honeymoon, so we decided that we're going on a honeymoon. I've chosen a very beautiful place in Romania, a secluded village with some monasteries and a castle. Hopefully we're going to have a good time, and I might share some of those pictures on Twitter if you guys are interested. But because of that, I hope nothing interesting is going to happen Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because I will not be able to cover it. So This Week is Stupid is probably going to have a little bit less content due to that. But with that said, let's hop right into the news. Now, apparently, Fascist Book is going to suppress what they consider to be political news. And this is excellent because all of you guys have been asking for this for quite a while now. At least this is what Fascist Book claims, that most of their users did not want news feeds on their wall. So they are going to decide to suppress political news when you log into Fascist Book. Now, the question is, what is and what isn't political? For example, is this political? A sexist tiger, yes, tigers can be sexist, who came to tea causes rape and harassment, says activists. So I'm pretty sure the activists went into the California prisons. They went to the people convicted of rape and they asked them, why did you do this? And they said, because I've read heretical literature when I was a kid. I read The Tiger Who Came to Tea and I was constrained. The author seeped its energy into me and I just couldn't control my body. If only activists would have banned this book when I was a kid, and thankfully, finally, the United States is on the right path, on the right journey to make absolutely sure that crime doesn't happen. Now, I have to say, most of the world is kind of baffled at how America is tackling crime. They're doing something that no one thought about doing, which is to ban heretical literature, like we've seen, releasing violent criminals from prison, demonizing and defunding the police force, and also, and this is very important, paying potential criminals $300 a month in the hopes that they're not going to shoot anyone. So, as I said, like the rest of the world is baffled, but it's the type of bafflement that prehistoric men had when someone finally invented the wheel. You're looking with awe and admiration, and this is, of course, because America is very progressive, forward-thinking, tolerant, inclusive, diverse, and equitable. So their ways of tackling crime might seem strange for the rest of the world, but I guarantee to you that they are definitely going to be working. All we need to do is to burn more books. Just one more book burned until the crime is going to go down. It's going to happen. It's going to happen any one of these days. There's going to be a new law that's going to ban something, that's going to forbid people from talking about something, and all of a sudden, boom! Utopia. Zero crime. And when that happens, the Americans are going to have to bow down and also thank to their most trusted ally, the Chinese Communist Party, which is also helping the Americans educate themselves and reach more progressive and more forward ideological heights than they are now. So, as you can see, the Chinese Communist Party is producing English language videos promoting critical race theory to American kids. So, while the American taxpayer is funding gender studies in Afghanistan with huge success, I've been told, the Chinese people are also using the taxpayer in order to help America become more progressive, more inclusive, more diverse, more forward-thinking, and hopefully one day, just like Afghanistan is going to overtake America in terms of culture and forward-thinkingness, so too will America overtake the Chinese people in terms of diversity, inclusion, equity, and all of the good stuff that the humankind can muster. However, and this is with a heavy heart that I must say, that in the road to progress, there are evil forces afoot. Evil people that are being reactionary, that are trying to stop the great progress that everyone is trying to achieve. And these are people like this musician by the name of Eric Clapton. But luckily, you can hear it here, folks. You can hear what Eric Clapton has done in order to put a wedge into the effort of so many. I mean, you have the mainstream media, you have the social media, you have politicians, you have corporations, you have the activists, all of them working in tangent like a smooth, well-oiled machine to push society to the right direction. And this man, this one individual is doing the most awful, the most hideous thing that is very difficult for us to imagine. He has created a song. He has created an art that is critical of the official response to the pandemic. How can he be allowed to do this? Why is the social media failing us? Why are the corporations not doing something about it? Bankers, why are you allowing this to happen? No, what a cruel world. How can we live in a free society where the bankers are asleep, where they allow money to be funneled to evil artists? Oh, such horror, such dread. No, seriously, you need to go on the Twitter and see how distraught the blue check marks are. That is actual human suffering that the blue check marks are experiencing. In the meanwhile, I know last week we talked a lot about Australia, so there's some good news. All right, you know that the police officers in Australia, they were working very hard in order to keep people locked up in their houses for their own health and safety. And now I want to say that finally the cops can have a break because everyone is locked in their homes. Everyone is finally following the guidelines as they're supposed to, and now the cops can catch a break. And because of that, they are throwing a party at their police station for the most noble of causes, for an event so righteous that I feel humble to even express it on my channel. The party at the police station was for LGBTQIA awareness, and their goal has definitely been successful. Because by throwing the party right in the pandemic, now everyone is talking about it. So now you have been made aware of the LGBTQIA. Haven't you, bigot? See, you thought the police is doing a bad thing, but this was actually strategically placed perfectly so that the mainstream media, especially the right-wing media, can start churning these articles to educate the bigots. To educate the bigots on their privilege. To push us even further on more ascending peaks of human wisdom. So I want to thank the Australian police. I, as a Romanian, do not have such beautiful police force in my country. But I can only hope that maybe in 10 or 20 years, we too can benefit from such strong and empowered. I mean, this is what happens when you don't have a greater nation funding gender studies into your country. So if you're an Australian, please petition the Australian government to maybe fund gender studies in Romania so that one day we can hope and aspire to have a police force as effective as yours. To manage to keep an entire population locked up in their houses, and once everyone is in their houses, then they can party. I mean, can you imagine a police officer partying? It means that there is absolutely nothing else to be done. Like, everything is safe, everything is secure. Probably the crime rates are down. Isn't that perfect? Man, I just wanted to exist here in Romania. Unfortunately, I can't travel to Australia, right? Restrictions and whatnot. But I'm really considering moving. I mean, it's definitely a country that oozes progressiveness. It just, like, it emanates with progressive mentality, a place that everyone in the world wants to travel to. Kind of like Afghanistan used to be, when it had the progressive Kabul University teaching people about the noble art of gender studies. Look, it was attracting students from California. This was on the August 25th, though. And apparently they were unable to get out after Afghanistan became a little bit more reactionary overnight. Can't really blame the students, though, because all the military experts and all of the people in authority and the people in power that never let us down just made a oopsie, made a mistake. They thought that the Afghanistani army is going to last a little bit longer. But then again, you have to wonder, how can the Afghanistan military be expected to take a bullet when the US president can't take a question?
So thank you very much, and thank you, Commissioner. I really think it all works. I'm not supposed to take any questions, but go ahead.
Mr. President, on Afghanistan...
I'm not going to answer Afghanistan now.
Can you say if there's still an
Okay.
acute risk?
I would have a question, though. You know that there's an army of activists and NGOs and various people working hand in hand with politicians in order to make sure that money doesn't go towards hateful organizations. Pretty much sure you heard about things like defund hate, no money for hatred. These like kindergarten names, but like you hear them a lot, and they usually complain. It's like, oh, this individual donated such and such to this hateful organization. Shut off its bank account. Remember that? Because I heard about them so often. So often. But recently, there's crickets. Why? Because it seems that the US government is funding hate. I don't think any single person in the world was capable of giving $85 billion to hateful organizations. Let's look at the shopping list a little bit. 22,174 Humvees. By the way, if you're an American taxpayer, sorry, no refunds. 8,000 trucks. This is actually very interesting when you look at the Black Hawks. 33 Black Hawks. Now, I understand that there are several nations within NATO that have fewer Black Hawks. So according to certain studies, now Afghanistan has actually more helicopters, more Black Hawk helicopters than other nations in the world. Nations that are part of NATO. They also have like 4 C-130 transports. I wonder how many Romania has. 23 Embraer EMB. I can't even pronounce them. I guess they're expensive. The Cessna AC-208 strike aircraft. You know, don't worry about it because they don't have replaceable parts. I mean, they're going to use them a little bit, but then they're going to lose them, I assume, huh? Is that how it works? Look at this Mi-17. Is it good? Is the, people in the chat, let me know if this is good. I don't know. I'm not a helicopter expert. But again, when I have capital letters and numbers next to it, it sounds impressive, gotta say. But I guess this paints a little bit of a clearer picture on why the US president was checking his watch while attending the funeral of the 13 fallen military members at Dover base, the military members who died in Kabul. It's probably because he's got a lot of counting to do. He wants to see just how much he funded hatred. So he still needs to account for a couple more Humvees, a couple more helicopters, and he's worried that if the funeral lasts a little bit longer, he might not watch the new Netflix special. Miss the new Cuties Director's Cut on Netflix. You should look up Cuties to see what it is. Actually, don't. Trust me. Just don't. Just don't. Okay? Better not knowing. But yeah, I mean, it's going to burn that candlelight oil. It's going to make him stay awake during the middle of the night. And then he might have problems when meeting with other world leaders. And then you're going to have to wake up the fact checkers to fact check. Because the American public is so stupid that they might actually believe the president could ever fall asleep. He never falls asleep. Very wide awake, energetic. But speaking of the fact checkers, let me tell you of another interesting story which actually got its own comic book. My name is Ghost. My job is to keep everyone safe. It can be tough sometimes, but I'm not scared. Even though I get paid with treats, I do it for free because I love my friends. I'm just... don't know where they went. So apparently 31 US military service dogs were left behind after the retreat. And a lot of people were outraged about this. Like, apparently more outraged than when they heard that US soldiers have died in action. This actually made the rounds. Now, What's interesting is that the fact checkers came on and they said, no, this is a lie. All of the dogs have been rescued, right? Because the fact checkers were on the ground. But also the Taliban were on the ground, and they're saying that the dogs are actually alive and being fed.
Also, there's a lot of noise. Also, there's a lot of noise in Western press about the dogs that were left behind by Americans. Is that true? And also, Western press, English press, is saying that the Taliban has sentenced the dogs to death.
It is not true. Yeah, the Americans left the dogs to get out from their specific places, but our teams and our officials called in charge of those dogs, and today they came to airport and they are trying to collect the dogs, and they are trying to facilitate for them and what they need to give them.
Is they alive, and how many are there?
Particularly, I cannot give you a specific number, but they are alive, and from the beginning, when we come to the front door of airport, we were in touch with the in charge of the dog, and they are working and they are feeding the dogs, and I think there's no problem. But situations were not too good, and maybe there are some problems. But at all, we can say that.
By the way, I gotta mention, I'm a Romanian, and here we don't really have access to a lot of weapons, so because of that, I'm not really good with guns. But I'm sure there must be some Americans in the chat that recognize weapons. Can you tell me what model of Kalashnikov is the Taliban holding? Like, what model is that? Because I'm not familiar with that type of Kalashnikov. Where is it manufactured? Where do you get that type of rifle? Because I've seen it in video games. So it's just like a question that I want to know. But anyway, so let's recap. We have the press saying that the dogs were left behind, but we have the fact checkers and the Pentagon saying that nope, all the dogs were rescued, but the Taliban are saying that the dogs are being taken care of. So who do we trust? Who do we believe? I'll tell you what, I believe the fact checkers because my grandma believed the fact checkers. My great-grandmother believed the fact checkers. The fact checkers have been right throughout the course of human history, and only with fact checkers can we discern fact from fiction. So I have 100% trust in the fact checkers. Those were not American dogs. I don't know what the Taliban is smoking, but probably those are not the dog of the infidel. They are the dog of someone else. I don't know what they found. Like maybe they found a little Fido over there and they thought that that is belonging to the US and to the Uncle Sam. But clearly not. Clearly 100% not. Like the Pentagon would never make such a mistake. They would never say something so irresponsible that would cause them to lose public trust. But just to be on the safe side, I gotta say, if worst comes to worst, Twitter has the Pentagon and the politicians covered, as well as any other blue checkmark. You see, for a long while on Twitter, there was this issue where someone would have a really bad take, a really bad opinion, and then people would give them criticism, which is more aptly called harassment. And the blue checkmarks were panicking. They didn't know what to do, and usually they would have to shut down or, put their messages on private or something similar. But now, Twitter is using the safety mode tool. So when you want to lock all the doors and bar all the windows and make sure that none of that pesky criticism reaches you, you can turn on the safety mode. So what the safety mode does is it uses Twitter AI, which is going to assess incoming tweets and content and the relationship between the tweet author and the replier. If the Twitter automated systems finds an account to have repeated harmful engagement with the user, it will block the account for 7 days from following the user's account, viewing their tweets, or sending them direct messages. And of course, the Twitter spokesperson, Tatiana Britt, said that the platform does not proactively send notifications letting people know they've been blocked. However, if the violator navigates to the user's page, they'll see that the Twitter auto-blocked them, that the user is in safety mode. So if you were concerned about dumb takes on the internet, especially if you have a blue check mark, like if you're a politician or someone like that, fear no longer. Twitter has a way of keeping the unwashed peasantry and the evil masses away from your ivory tower. Now, I have to apologize. I honestly wish this segment was a little bit longer, but I don't have access to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday yet. So, because I don't have access to that news, I can't make this 30 minutes long. But you can happily know that I'm probably visiting a monastery right now, a place of worship, place of God. So, I'm in a good place in my honeymoon, visiting all those old Romanian churches, and I hope you're going to have fun, just as I am right now. And speaking of Romanian churches,
In the name of God, for the grace, for the might of our Lord, for the home of the holy.
I'll see you all in the comments section, and I hope you had a good time. Take care.